topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
You're listening to the ASQ podcast for a transformational approach to life and leadership, blending soul wisdom with modern insight to create outer impact. Hello.
Welcome
back. How
back.
are you? Yes, welcome everybody to the ASQ podcast. Super excited.
Yeah, I am super excited.
We are serious. I said this last time, but we are really on a roll now.
Oh yeah, we're getting used to this now. We're in a groove. We're in a groove.
We're in a groove. That's it.
Right. Before we get started, actually, I want to just bring up to the audience attention that we are having a cohort coming up here on the 29th of October.
Our guiding cohort.
Yes. And our cohort is going to be focusing on some major competencies that we need to understand, how our mind operates and how we could focus on our mind. So if you want to learn more about that, please visit asqempowermentservices.com.
asqempowerment.com.
Oh, asqempowerment.com to learn more about the cohort.
Yes.
So now let's get to business.
You're not going to want to miss it, actually.
You don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss it.
We're doing this cohort, this guiding cohort, for a very reasonable price
and a limited number of people. So just keep that in mind. Check us out, and we'll talk about it more later.
All right. So our guest today.
Yeah, I'm excited about this guest, actually.
Our guest today
I get to work with her.
Jessica Bright.
Yes.
Let me do my little intro. I love this. I have my little cheat sheet. All right. Jessica Bright is a proud Florida native and dedicated community advocate who has called the Treasure Coast her home since 2017. Her journey from account management to behavioral health and nonprofit leadership reflects her deep passion for helping others and others heal and thrive. She has served women in recovery, supported individuals overcoming substance use, and championed trauma-informed care across diverse communities. Today, Jessica leads as the executive director of the Inner Truth Project, a nonprofit supporting survivors of sexual abuse on the Treasure Coast. When she's not empowering others, Jessica enjoys life as a proud mom, loving partner, and devoted cat mom to Olive. I love that.
All right. So without any further ado, we would like to welcome Jessica Bright, Executive Director of the Inner Truth Project, to our show.
ITP. Yay.
Yeah. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Jesse and Omar.
How are you?
Good. I'm laughing because that last line.
Devoted cat mom.
Devoted cat mom. Yes. Although I was just sitting with my cat this morning while I was drinking my coffee. And it's like my hour. That's my hour. It sets the tone.
Hence
and she was just like,
cat mom.
Yeah. And I was like, I just couldn't imagine my life without her. She knows my deepest, darkest secrets.
Oh wow. Go Olive.
What a good cat.
So
awesome.
So Jessica, we want to start by getting to know you, right? Well, I know you, Jessica knows you, but we want the audience to get to know you about the importance of personal growth, overcoming challenges, and all that, and the role that played in your life to be the leader, the mom, the partner
mom
that you are today. Could you take us to that journey of yourself, your personal development, to help you arrive at all those different dimensions, right? Because it's not just an executive director of ITP. You are a full-time mom, part of the PTA, part of other boards. You do all these different things. But let's start with the personal development journey and the personal fulfillment journey. Tell us about that.
Yes. So first of all, let's go back to 1984. I was born. And actually, I was born of the first of 6 children. Just going to a personal level, I'm going to take you on my life journey in a very short time that we have here. And I think that it's potentially why I learned at some point to just capitalize on my experiences,
Mhm.
and they then just that leadership light just shone through, or is shining through.
Mhm.
So I was born 6 out of 6 children, the oldest. From a very young age, my parents, they divorced, and so it was kind of like being the oldest and the girl of the house. It was just like, I don't know, it just in someone had to take the reins, right?
Mm.
And nobody told me, like, all right, Jessica, you're in charge of making sure everyone does their chores and, going to school and all these things. But it was just like, I just, for some reason, was put on that path to feeling like okay, let's go. Let's do
Yeah.
it, right? And, moving forward in life, I remember like the first, club that I ever became a part of was called the 4-H club.
4-H.
The
Yes.
4-H.
Okay, so it's kind of like you can look it up. It's like a well-known, it's been around for years, and it's a youth club that for kids under 18, and they do different things together. I don't know if you've ever heard of like Future Farmers of America, FFA.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
Okay, so
Yep.
it's similar to that. And so like my dad had raised us around like farm animals and horses and all these things. Like we showed competitively. And when I became part of this group, over time, I ended up being like the president of the 4-H club, right? And I was so serious. Like I carried around my notebook, and I had like now what we would call an intake form on everybody.
Yeah.
Like I needed their demographics, who's your emergency contact. Like I was very literal, like, and took my job serious. And I was a 4-H club until I would turn 18. And once you turn 18, you kind of have to move on because you're now an adult.
Yeah.
And I really took that serious, and it was really cool because where I lived, the horse community was a small community. It costs, for one thing, it was very cost effective, and put a big, huge like dent in my dad's checkbook.
Yeah.
But like that's what we love to do. And I served the group. We build community. We were able to be a part of lives with animals so like all the stuff as a kid that I was going through, that was like my outlet, right?
Yeah.
And then moving on, and I'm proud. I'm a person in recovery. I actually just celebrated 8 years past
All
this
right.
August. And
Congrats.
yeah, thank you. But it was something that I was trying to do for the last 20 years.
Right.
And I would, get myself together and then go back to it, stray away, and then come back and stray away. And it was this past time that, I decided to like get clean and be serious about my recovery. My circumstances were different. And that's where I found my people, instead of me trying to lead, I let people lead me. And that was a big pivotal turning point in my life because I always wanted to be right. I always wanted to, be first. And this was something that I didn't have the answers to, and this was like way before Google, and now definitely Chat GPT. And, I had to like rely on other people, or like be vulnerable enough for other people who had been through certain experiences in life to share their strength and their hope with me to help guide me through.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't, like, that is where I, looking back now, see that I was continuing to fail in my recovery journey.
So like what you're saying is that you were instead of taking all these things on your own, You
Right.
began to rely on other people.
Well, I think more so you had an awareness that you needed to let go and allow other people to come into your life to give you guidance
Yeah.
and to give you support and to give you
Exactly.
direction. Because
Right.
that takes a level of awareness, because all this time you're you've taken leadership roles on early in your life, and you were kind of like the go-getter, and I'm the initiative taker.
Mhm.
I got my intake forms, all that good stuff. But now you're at a point where this is my life. And if I don't give up some of this to other people and allow people into my world, this is going to be my life. I don't know what's going to happen to me. Is
Yeah.
that kind of
Right.
right?
Yeah. And Omar and I talk about this, on a work level, just about the whole power and control,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
and I think that's what really, when it came back to, is, there were a lot of things early on as a child, or, in my early experiences, that I didn't know what was going to happen, or, there was a lot of fear-based,
Yeah.
thinking, or, just by different situations. But like these certain things, when I took initiative, I knew what, well, I didn't know the exact outcome, but I knew where
Mhm.
I was going, right?
Yeah.
And I knew this was something that I can handle and I can lead and I can go to. So when I got to recovery, um, and went to treatment, I remember that we sat in our first group, and the therapist, was there, and we separated. Like, there was one group went to another room, and then I was in a different group with another set of people with the therapist. And there was some noise out in the hallway, and I got up to shut the door, and she said to me, she goes, "Why did you do that?" And I was like, "Well, because there was noise and it was distracting people." And she's like, "Well, how do you know?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm
Huh.
just shutting the door."
Yeah.
And she was like, "Who told you to do that?" And I was like, "Me." And she was like, "You're not in charge all the time." Like, it was like a learning moment and awareness
Right.
to me that, like, sometimes I just got to stay in my own lane.
Mm.
Yeah. That's interesting, because a lot of people would be like, excuse me, or F off, or whatever. I want to say
Me,
that.
I said it all in my
I was going to say the Jessica I know would have said all those things. So,
I
but
said
I'm
it
just
all
saying,
in my head.
In your
but
head.
also it's to have that awareness to say, okay, I need to mind my own business or stay in my own
Yeah.
lane.
So,
Yeah.
so let me ask you this, right? How does that translate? Because again, number one is the resilient to overcome obstacles.
Mhm.
Number two, the awareness of
Mhm.
understanding I gotta stay in my lane sometimes. How is that, or how has that translated into being a mom, being a partner, being a leader? Because you overcame so much. You just had a baby girl, 10 months ago, beautiful Fallon, right? How is that translated into the way that you conduct your life and the way you lead your life in all those different aspects?
Well, I'm dealing right now with my daughter who's 7. She's in the stage right now of, I guess my parents would have called it talking back
Mm.
or arguing, but I also see, like, we live in a different, like, let's just be real, like, we live in a different time, so I feel like she's expressing her strengths. I just hope
That's
that,
a great way to put it.
yeah, or she's really passionate.
Uh-huh.
She's a live wire, and I see myself in her so much. And all of those experiences that I've had, how do I transform them into becoming a leader and a mother? Sometimes it's giving myself grace, right? And I think as moms, as parents, let's just say as parents, because, like, I, my dad raised me. He was amazing. He did the best that he could with what he knew how. And
Mhm.
he's my hero. And so as parents, I think sometimes we're supposed to have all the answers, but it's also like letting that human side of you, your kids see the human side of you, or the people that you're working with see the human side of you, or your neighbors or your friends, because like how else could like people meet you where you're at, if that makes sense. I know like there's been times where in leadership, in my professional development, I have a mentor that I'm working on with right now, with the whole imposter syndrome, right? Because of there are certain people, I have this thing. It's like, if I don't have like these letters and numbers and whatever after my name, then I'm not deemed worthy enough to the doctor sitting in my right, and maybe the psychiatrist, or the whoever sitting to my left, and I feel like a fraud, but it took me a long time to get to this place of realizing that I earned a seat at that table, whether it's the boardroom or a community meeting or a PTO, PTA, meeting at my kid's school, just as much as anybody else did, regardless of their status. And we're all here guided and bonded by our experiences, and we all have something to bring to the table. And we also can learn from each other too.
Yeah. I love that.
No, it's very cool that you mentioned that, right?
Question, but that's where the universe guided me.
No. That's actually
perfect.
that's perfect, because what you're describing is really all your life experiences, right? They matter. They matter a lot more than these technical ideas, right? Because they or just as equal as a terminal ideas. So before we conclude this particular segment, what is the one lesson, right, from other people? I know you mentioned your dad. From people like your dad or Mindy or someone that mentors you, what is the one lesson about being authentic? Because you mentioned that idea of imposter syndrome. What is one lesson that you've learned about being authentic and being uniquely you in the throughout your journey?
Well, I think I was born a people pleaser. And I mean, from the moment I came out, right? And that has its perks, but also it is something in these many years of my life that I've been working to undo, because it also has like its struggles too, right? Burnout, not setting boundaries. And so one thing that I've learned, and I don't know if it's matured with age or if it's just doing my own personal growth and work and development and being vulnerable, is that, it's important to communicate with people and share where you're at. And no is okay. It's okay to say no. I've discovered in the last couple of months that my calendar, when you look at it, it's like so full. And there was a block in my calendar just this morning. I was going through it and I'm like, no, I need to fill it up with this and fill it up with that to make myself feel part of, right? And busy and seem important. But the reality of it is that I have to make time for me too. And it's okay to say no, or to reschedule, or to cancel, or whatever the case is, because like what it boils down to, it is my foundation, my self-care, mental health, and my recovery. That's my foundation. Everything else is built up off of that. And once I take that foundation away from myself or short myself, I'm the one who suffers.
So
and then
true.
once I suffer, everything else crumbles down afterwards.
Absolutely.
And something that I also realized and learned, that there's no like concrete foundation and that's it, here it is. Like, you got to constantly maintain this stuff, right? Recovery is not a linear, like, just because I have 8 years and I stopped using drugs and alcohol, that's great. But how am I doing that on a daily basis? And it's, as you move on in your recovery, or at least for me, like, it's not about like the drugs and alcohol anymore. It's some of the other the behaviors. I want to be first.
Mm.
I want more. I want more tres leche. I want more.
You do love your tres leches.
What about me? What did you buy me? And those characteristics that maybe don't serve me then come out, and so going back to your question is, continuously working on my foundation as a person allows me to be a better spouse, a better employee, a better employer, a better, friend, a better person at the red light. Because when I'm fit mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and financially, let's just say, things tend to work out differently as if I'm falling short,
Oh, absolutely.
I'm telling you, the other day I was having such a great morning and whatever, and someone flicked me off or cut me off in the line, and I wanted to stick up my middle finger, and my middle finger would not go up.
Wow.
What? Mine has no problem.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
But I was
trying not to do it.
I was like, who are you? But it was just like,
do that, look in the rearview mirror, turn it. What are you doing?
But it was like just a moment where I was able to reflect on like, girl, there would have been a day that you would have followed them home, and just like give myself, a pat on the back. Like, good job, Jessica.
There you go.
Awesome. Awesome. This is great actually, because we're going to take a small break, but when we come back, I want you to explain to us how all these lessons and all these things that you're learning, how does it apply to actually running an organization? Because it is very interesting how you mentioned the individual and all the work that you have done, how that translates into really putting it into practice in the business, in the things that we do at ITP. So we'll be right back with Jessica after this commercials.
You're listening to the ASQ podcast, a transformational approach to life and leadership. Too many of us chase clarity but feel scattered. What if your challenge isn't failure, but the threshold before expansion? Each month, we gather live for a transformational webinar where contraction becomes coherence. Register today and receive your Soul GPS journal. Begin your journey within. Scan the QR code or visit asqempowerment.com.
At ASQ, we need one platform to do it all. Funnels, emails, forms, and automations. That's why we run our entire ecosystem on Go High Level. It is the tool that saves us time and builds real connections with our audience. We believe in it, we use it, and we recommend it. Start your free trial through our affiliate link today.
We don't just find podcast guests, we find aligned voices. That's why ASQ uses Podmatch to connect with leaders and creators worldwide. It's how we've built relationships that shape life and culture. If you want meaningful conversations, join through our affiliate link today or scan the QR code. Find your match on Podmatch.
Leaders are burning out. Teams are disengaged. Cultures are fragmenting. ASQ Empowerment transforms leadership and culture from the inside out. Our Coherence Quest bridges ancient wisdom with modern neuroscience, helping organizations align, adapt, and thrive. Start with an organizational snapshot assessment. So, visit now at asqempowerment.com and schedule your briefing today. ASQ Empowerment. Lead your life. Shape your culture. Begin within.
Welcome back. You're listening to the ASQ podcast with Dr. Jesse and Omar Ferreira, a transformational approach to life and leadership. Welcome back.
Yeah,
welcome back.
Welcome back.
I'm excited about this part because I'm such a leadership person. So I'm interested in learning about how all of these experiences that you shared with us on the first half of the show sort of like have accumulated for you to show up, like Omar mentioned earlier, with within the organization in general, because I know you deal with a lot of people externally, networking and things like that too. How does all of these experiences show up for you now?
So one thing I could tell you is, so I was hired on at this organization at the Inner Truth Project 7 years ago. And it was a very part-time, like grant position, grant funded position. And the point of this was to grow the teen and family program, right? So I essentially was outreach. I'd go out in the community, meet with other programs, tell them about us, and then help like put together some programming internally. So when the people came, they had something to do, right? And I don't know. I just, I at the time, the executive director, who our founder is, Mindy, it was her and I. We were very grassroots, very. There were times where we sat at the table, both working. There were phone calls. We didn't even have like a phone system. They were being like transferred to our cell phones. And, I would be like at Publix shopping and having to run out to my car to go do an intake, in private. And it was different here. I think what the turning point is that I had the opportunity to like build my own thing. Like there was no micromanaging. I mean, yes, we had like, we got to do this and we have to do that and meet here and there and whatever, and we'll talk about it. But I think working with her one-on-one, I remember like we sat on the couch during my interview and she was like, I don't know. I mean, this is what, I need, and I don't know what you're going to do. And here you go. And here's some places to go to. And I was like, okay. And so there was no onboarding, no policies, no, like, this is the job description. Like, it was just like, hi, okay, hi. All right. I'll see you on Monday. And we made it work. And I think a lot of it was she allowed me to discover myself, right, in that process. Which, this role it was like we had a baseline, but I was able to mold this role that I was in, right? And then furthermore, she allowed me to express my creativity, right? And which at the time I had never been in a position, never been at a job or in any type of position where it was like, here's your goal, here's how you're going to get there. And on Friday, if you have this, then you get this, right? And it was like, it was a very different, unique situation. This is my first nonprofit organization that I've ever worked with. I've been in sales. Sales was my thing prior to. I love seeing like, it's not only just like the end result, but I like seeing the process in between and how we're going to get there. I've learned in this role early on that I can be very strategic, and it helps me, I guess, kind of organize this chaos and thoughts up here in my head, right? To know like, okay, step 1, we're going to do this. Step 2, we're going to do this. Step 3, we're going to do this. And I think that's what was a little bit different between her and I, was because like, she was like, we're just going to do it.
Yeah.
How? I don't know, we'll figure it out. And we always did. But, and I think that's where I was able to have the opportunity to say, okay, this is how we're going to try it. And then we would together try it. Right. And then things would work, not work. We'd make notes, whatever. But the two of us worked really well together for 6 years, side by side. And in that time, I went from very part-time to outreach, to program director, running all programs. And then, I did direct services. I'm a certified peer recovery specialist. So when survivors of sexual abuse come into the center, I was able to work with them one-on-one, provide peer support, just sharing a little bit more about our group, supporting the parents, caregivers, anybody who came in through the center. I was like their first point of contact. We continued to grow and then, had gotten an opportunity to hire on more staff, and we're so grateful for all of them. So once we got up and running and we had other staff, I was like, okay, I've done the direct service part, I've done the outreach. Now we need money, right? Yeah. How are we gonna keep this going?
Yeah. Right. Quick question for you, right? Because a lot of leaders have a hard time segueing from direct services, right, into the leadership position. What challenges did you face making that transition, and how do you overcome those challenges?
And sometimes I still struggle with this, is ensuring that people are going to be taken care of, like the direct, the people that we're providing services to are going to be taken care of the exact way that I would take care of them, because I do see this time and time again, and not necessarily in our organization, but, when you think about a role in a nonprofit mental health organization, because that's what we are, you have staff who support, like case managers, therapists, things like that. And there's a lot of high turnover at times in these organizations. And it's like, even like our case manager, when we were doing the interview, we probably interviewed like 12 or 13 case managers before we found the one that was a good fit for us. And I'm telling you, like, a lot of them were just stone cold, like, yeah, no, well, if that situation would arise, I would go to HR, and, and it was just like the human connection was missing. So to answer your question, was just ensuring that human connection, like, was still going to be in these roles, whether it was, programming, intake, and sometimes, I'll listen to the staff and, will, if I hear something that could maybe be different, or if I would have said something different, or just positive reinforcement. And, because the fact is, like, we work with survivors of sexual abuse and sexual trauma. This role, all these roles here in our organization, it's very easy to get burnt out, to get exhausted. Yeah. And a lot of us here that are working in the organization have our own trauma. And something as little as something being frustrating, you don't realize it, but as that person on the other end of the phone, your little attitude is being reflected, but just because you're mad because they spelt their own email address wrong or something, or they didn't hear you the first 15 times, like, it's okay. We just got to meet people where they're at, And so one of my challenges was ensuring that the survivors and the people that I came in contact, because I built close, professional bonds with them, but some of the people that have been here for years. And so like for instance, I've had a family, grandma, mom, aunt, and daughter all utilize our services for years. And so once I moved into the leadership role, I was called to do other things. And so it was kind of hard, like, letting that go when I knew their whole story for years, but, also trusting the process, that I'm not the only one in this world that can serve survivors of abuse with love, compassion, and care. Yeah. So that was one of my struggles. Going back to what we talked about earlier, and that's where I have to check myself and stay in my own lane, Yeah. But as the executive director, ensuring that each and every person gets served here with dignity and respect and compassion.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've already said a lot of this, but if you can just touch on this for me, how does all of your personal development and the things that you've realized and have sort of capitalized on. You use the word capitalized, right? All of these levels of awareness, how does that translate into leadership? It sounds like, I mean, you've touched on it, but is there like a definitive, like, what I've learned is this, and this is how I put it out there in my organization as a leader?
So, you know, one thing that I've learned in my own, just my personal journey, is I've allowed people to empower me and to, I guess, test and go through the trials and tribulations, whether, you know, they were like, they allowed me to go on my journey. Right. And so, like, I try to instill that too with leadership here, with the staff, or I have other, like, women that I'm mentoring out into the community. Like, I can't tell you what to do. I cannot rob you of your own process. Like, that's not fair. You know, I can offer you some suggestions and solutions that maybe worked for me. But allowing everyone, just like the executive director before me, gave me that opportunity to mold my own journey here at the Inner Truth Project, and allowing individuals to do that too here. I mean, of course, we have to have, like, you know, some guidelines here, but also, like, who am I to stunt anybody else's growth? And, like, to me, this organization is a springboard for people to come into their own, whether you're here for a couple years, or I might be here like centuries, I don't know, but however long it is, and it's like continuing. It's a continuing process of learning, you know, year after year.
Yeah.
So as we begin to kind of like wind down and get to the end, I have two questions for you. So the first one is this, right? You worked in different settings, sales, other organizations. What can leaders do to create an environment, to create a culture in which people feel safe, in which people are able to be, their creativity is being able to be tapped into so that they could contribute to the greater whole? What is a leader to do to create those environments?
The main thing I could say is be your real self. Don't try to be somebody that you're not, or that you want to be. You know, lead from where you're at. Something that I also can tell you as a leader is that we are all equal. There's been times where there's staff like, you're the executive director, you shouldn't be doing that, right? Yeah. And I'm like, listen, from Park Place to Park Bench to Park Place, here I am. I'm here to prove it. I am no better than you, okay?
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm writing that down. Holy shit. That's awesome.
At the end of the day, we're a unit. Right. So if I have to, phone's ringing, I go and pick up the call, like, and it goes back to, there's this term called go to the Gemba, right? There's a local strategic company, and they teach a lot of different classes and things like that. And one of the things is that he teaches in the class is, as a leader, it's important to go back to the source, go back to the wheel, right? And to know what's working, what's not working, what are they going through? Because one thing I've learned is when everything is grand and great and running smoothly in your organization, that's because your staff is doing it. Yep. When everything falls apart, that's your problem. And, you know, I cannot be the Inner Truth Project. I am not the Inner Truth Project. You know, this organization was built solely on by survivors for survivors, and we lead with that. And, you know, just continuing to remember that I'm just an equal. You know, the day the executive director, I remember she said to me, she was like, at one point, I'm done. I'm ready to close the doors. And I'm like, okay, so you could be done, but we're not. You know, like we still have people in our community that need us.
Mm-hmm.
And you can pass the torch, you know? And that was one of my took initiatives. I didn't know what I was doing, how I was going to do it, and how I was going to get there, but I knew that we needed to stay open.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that we are.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So real quick, in a minute, tell us about the Inner Truth Project. What is the work that we do, the work that you do, and how do we connect with the Inner Truth Project?
Yeah, so the Inner Truth Project, which you might have heard ITP somewhere in this. Yes.
I love
so
that.
We're a local nonprofit organization on the Treasure Coast here in Florida that works and supports survivors that have been through any type of sexual abuse. We have all different types of programs available for them. Individual therapy is primarily one of the sources that people seek after they've experienced sexual abuse. We also have groups, support groups, therapy groups for teens, equine therapy, yoga, trauma-informed art therapy. We do all different types of things. We also go out into the community, connect with other organizations, talk about some prevention, connect with parents who may need some support and caregivers after their child has experienced sexual abuse. We are open to ages 10 as well as up to adults. And then we have specific groups for men, women, teens, the LGBTQ plus community, as well as, you know, again, supporting foster parents, caregivers, things of that nature. So in a nutshell, that's what we do. We're a long-term like stepping stone for individuals. Mm-hmm. A lot of times people come to us maybe time after their abuse happened, but we also get people that have come to us in a crisis situation. But, you know, we're here for the long haul, and it's not necessarily to tell them what to do or how to do it. It's here's some support services and how can we help you build your journey forward.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
And how would they connect with you guys if they wanted to learn more about you or just to
connect with you? Absolutely. You could check us out directly on the web at innertruthproject.org. All the information is on our website. If you are into social media, you can go to Facebook/Inner Truth Project. We're also on, I almost said Instacart. Showing my age. We're on Instagram. Yeah, you can find us at Publix. No.
Oh, goodness.
We are on Instagram and other social media sources. But if you check us right out on our web, that'll show you that, you know, there's a link tree there. And you could just simply call at 772-200-4599 and send an email to info@innertruthproject.org.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jessica, so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
For being a fun guest.
Yeah. So
and for sharing your vulnerabilities and just how you've developed over your short, brief time on this planet. Because you said you're old, but please, I'm not hearing that.
Let me tell you about my hip.
Oh, we have more time later. So, Jessica, again, thank you so much. And we look forward to actually having a conversation, maybe more long form and another episode. Just to get
absolutely.
More in details. Yeah, absolutely.
It's just one. I'm just one human trying to help another. You know.
Absolutely. All right, thank you, Jessica. All right, everybody. Thank you for your time. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the ASQ podcast, a transformational approach to life and leadership. Coming this December, A Soul's Quest, a transformational approach to life and leadership. A book that bridges science, wisdom, and lived experience so you can lead with coherence. Don't miss the launch. Join the waiting list today, scan the QR code, or visit asqempowerment.com.
At ASQ, we believe every creative deserves a safe space to share. That's why we use and proudly recommend Gnostic TV. It's where your content won't be silenced and your vision can flourish. Sign up through our affiliate link and be part of this Freedom Center platform. Create boldly on Gnostic TV. Across boardrooms, nonprofits, and communities, too many leaders are quietly burning out. They know what's not working, but not how to turn inertia into momentum. That's where I come in. I help leaders, fathers, and organizations move from quiet crisis into coherence, so cultures can thrive from the inside out. Book me today at asqempowerment.com and bring coherence to your next event.
Welcome back. You're listening to the ASQ podcast with Dr. Jesse and Omar Ferreira, a transformational approach to life and leadership.
All right, we're back. So this is our recap time.
Yes.
So what are some of the things that stood out for you? What are some of the key takeaways that you got from this conversation with Jessica?
So a couple of things that I really love about Jessica is the fact that she's resilient, right? She had this sort of initiative taking trait from a young age. So she had leadership capabilities as a young age, and how she understood how to balance that as she grew up and into her organization and her work as a leader.
Yep.
I love that she's very much focused on that human-centered approach, which is something that we at ASQ have a focus on as well. We're very interested in that human-centered interaction, right? And making sure that we keep that in the forefront of all of our conversations and the way that we interact with other people. Those were the things that really stood out for me. And I also like the fact that she's continuous, like she understands that continuous work on herself is important.
Yeah.
So those are the things that stood out for me, both micro and macro.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, like the macro idea of always recognizing something, in particular, that sometimes you have to find a community that's outside of the norm. To make sure that you connect to some things that are hidden without of you, so that you can say it, and also the ability to understand your awareness about yourself, and the things that you have to constantly improve, but also what you have to watch out for. Our tendencies to be able to control, but also to be able to recognize that it's a tendency. Let me reflect whether or not that's where I'm behaving from, and then moving forward to that.
Those blind spots.
Yep.
She's cognizant of that, and I think that her continuous work is giving her more opportunities to see those things, because this is just part of our life.
It's part of our continuous growth. Yeah.
Yes.
So the final thing that I want to say before we go is, again, if you haven't done so, on October 29th, we are going to be launching our foundational cohort. And this cohort is meant for between 12 to 16 individuals who are going to be the first, the very first, our foundational cohort to test pilot our coherence cohort, in which we will be discussing some of the natural traits that we have, and also how we are able to develop those different aspects of us, so we could live more coherent, and we could live more on
purpose,
on meaning, finding meaning in our lives. So to learn more about that, please check us out at asqempowerment.com. That's asqempowerment.com.
All right. So what's our tagline?
Absolutely. So we want to thank you all for tuning in today, and just keep remembering, lead your life, shape your culture, and begin within. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the ASQ podcast. Remember to lead your life, shape your culture, begin within. Visit us at asqempowerment.com and join the movement.